Vlad spar a story about when I get my gun license, which gun do you think I should buy? This is a question that a lot of people ask me, both online and at the shooting ranges, while I'm doing my job as a shooting instructor. The answer is more complicated than it seems. Instead of just making a simple list, maybe of pistols suitable for beginners, I want to explain to you the logic behind choosing a firearm for the first time, and the many mistakes that newcomers to this discipline, this sport, this passion make when choosing their first purchase. It's something that has happened to everyone, myself included, also because the world of firearms is incredibly vast. And what happens? So in a way, I'm also partly to blame. When we don't know anything about a topic and we approach it for the first time, we might go online to consume content in order to form an opinion. I really like to compare firearms to playing a musical instrument. Let's take the guitar, for example. When you decide to learn to play the guitar, honestly, which guitar you choose isn't that important at this stage. You need to practice, you need to learn how to use your hands, you need to learn how to use the chords. It's no different with firearms for most beginner shooters. They make huge problems for themselves. Huge, to use a colloquial term, they overthink things about what they should buy to start shooting. The most important thing, the number one piece of advice I can give you is buy something, shoot, practice, because that's what will make the difference. You still don't know what you want. You don't know if the ergonomics of the weapon suit you or not. You don't know if you like every grip or not, especially if you haven't tried it. Many of you don't know what kind of sight suits your subjective preferences or even how your eye is built. We all have slightly different eyes with different visual defects, and maybe certain sights can enhance or lessen these differences. First of all, if you can, try everything you have available. Many shooting ranges, starting with the national TSNs, offer a wide variety of guns for rent to try out. It's also quite important to try out a few different guns. However, don't be surprised if at that moment you don't feel like you've found the perfect gun. You'll need a lot of time on the trigger, a lot of time shooting, and maybe a lot of time practicing dry firing to really appreciate the differences. Here's another comparison I'll make, because I'm sure many of you have a driver's license, drive a car, or at least are interested in cars. What do you think? Does the average driver notice if they have front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive? And more importantly, do they know how to make the most of it? Do they really know how to use the two different car configurations for most uses? Going grocery shopping, picking up the kids from school, even taking a trip out of town doesn't make the slightest difference to most people. And this is also true for firearms. If there are features that might be appreciated by champions, firearms used by champions and designed to win dynamic shooting competitions, you are not dynamic shooting champions. If you are buying your first firearm, then maybe investing 2,000 euros in a firearm made to win competitions. I would advise against it. The truth is that if you go to buy your first firearm, you need to shoot a lot with it to improve and then be able to appreciate the differences. So the ideal firearm for a beginner should first of all be one, a relatively inexpensive weapon widely available on the market, and above all, I would say, easy to resell. In fact, once you've learned how to use it, maybe you've tried others and you've formed a different opinion. If you have a weapon that's popular as a model, you'll be able to resell it easily, maybe to make room, both in your registration and in your wallet, for the purchase of another firearm. Don't look for strange things. So I'm sorry, maybe for those who are fans of some small company that might also produce very high quality products. They do suffer a bit from the problem of the aftermarket and resellability though. Few accessories. If I want to upgrade it, or even if I want to buy an extra magazine and they really struggle, especially if I want to resell it, this is definitely an aspect that shouldn't be underestimated. Focus on maybe the two most popular brands overall, Beretta, Glock, C and Z. You really don't need to look any further, especially from this perspective. They're very widespread, so you can often find them used at a good price. But even new guns, if you go and buy them and use them, you can fairly easily resell them. A second piece of advice I give you regarding the technical choice of the weapon is about the caliber. Don't do anything strange. Again, my advice is to be careful and avoid choosing unusual calibers. There are three main calibers for beginners: .2, 2-long rifle, 9x19 and 9x21. The last two are nearly the same. I could say that there are only two correct calibers because they are the most common, they are the most widespread, and so you can buy ammunition that generally costs less, because the important thing for a beginner is to practice. These are cartridges you might use if you want to go further with 9mm reloading. Here too, components and costs are low. One day you might buy a pistol with a strange caliber that fascinates you, but today is not that day. It's nice to have your own pistol, to sit there, look at it and clean it, but if your goal is to become a good shooter, you have to use that weapon. And if a box of ammunition costs 40 euros instead of 15 euros, just to give an example for a 9mm, you understand the difference. The amount of practice you do can make a huge difference. Also, don't fall into the trap of thinking that the weapon you buy has to last you forever. Weapons can be resold. It's not a problem. You have the right to change your mind, and the weapon you bought might not satisfy you after some time. It's completely normal. Another piece of advice I give you is to try not to pay too much attention to the opinions of people who are more experienced in shooting. It's a bit strange to say this, right? I work as a shooting instructor. I'm an influencer about firearms, so my opinions are constantly out there. However, a lot of beginner shooters who come to me may have already seen some of my videos. They always fall into the same trap. They fall into the trap of considering my personal opinion and my preferences as a rule. This is a trap that a lot of people who have gotten involved in the world of shooting fall into. From some friend or relative who already shoots and tells them, look, this model of pistol is the best pistol in the world, it shoots straight, you should buy it too. Often not. Now, I don't have much more experience to appreciate these things. Is your goal right now to shoot straight? It's a little sad to say from my point of view, but so many people. They greatly overrate their shooting skills. Many of the shooters, even those who, as far as I'm concerned, have been coming to a shooting range for many years to shoot, they overestimate themselves. Not that they're necessarily bad shooters, but they overestimate their own shooting ability. And above all, they put much more emphasis on the tool than on their own skill. Honestly, a good shooter can handle pretty much any weapon. Sure, maybe when he has to go compete and win competitions, he clearly needs the right tool, but only a bad craftsman blames his tools. Only someone who isn't really as good as they think gives all the credit to a gun. The truth is, as long as the weapon is in your hand and the sights are visible and properly aligned, mechanically speaking, it shoots straight and the trigger is crisp, not mushy. That's all you need. To learn, you don't need to have techno steel frames, match sights, or a tuned trigger for a light pull weight. You don't need these things. You don't need a race car to learn how to drive from home to the supermarket. The little Panda car is enough, and only when you've gotten practical experience with the Panda and you know how to appreciate the difficulties and needs of driving around with a car in the city or on the highway, then you'll be able to understand what you like. In the same way with shooting, only when you have shot a lot and have acquired enough skill to hit the target straight on. I repeat, most people don't even realize it. For example, they jerk the trigger badly. I see shooters, maybe they've been coming to the range for years, who keep jerking the trigger and don't understand what they're doing wrong. It's clear that a heavy gun with a light trigger might mitigate that mistake, but it's still a shooter's error. Your goal should be to eliminate the mistake and learn the technique, not to try to cheat as much as possible, so to speak. By looking for an orthopedic tool that costs much more than it should as a solution. Do you really want to know what the ideal first gun to buy is? Open up used guns, find the first third generation Glock or the first used Beretta 98 at the lowest price. The market price is more than enough. The important thing is that you take it out, go to the shooting range, and ideally, under the supervision of someone who knows what they're doing, you practice with it. That's all from me. And as always, I'll see you next time.